especially with events nowadays and everything like that. People should have the choice to pray to whoever they want to, and the choice to, express their religion and their faith in whoever they want, especially with school. It's all about learning.
You got the right to believe in anything you want, but you just got to keep it to yourself. It's more personal. I don't think we should have it in the classroom.
I went to private school myself, and they give you like a decision and everything. Like, there's kids that are Muslim and stuff, you know what I mean? And they don't have to pray if they don't want to. So if it's in public schools, then it shouldn't be mandatory, but whoever wants to do it can do it.
Yeah, I guess students should be able to pray. I mean, it's whatever you believe in.
Absolutely, I get angry every time anyone makes an issue of it. It shouldn't even be a question.
Just do whatever you believe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think they should be.
Yes, because as long as they're doing it on their own, they shouldn't be made to pray or anything, because there's separation of church and state, and also the freedom of religion guarantees that right.
See, that's like such a long controversy that's been going on since for such a long time, and separating church and state, it's been like the controversy of a lifetime. So I think it's better off when it's just separated church and state.
Because there's that separation between church and state that you shouldn't mix religion with education. You can always learn about religion with education, but you shouldn't act on it.
I think it should be okay because it's one person's own individual feelings and thoughts and beliefs, and it should be expressed as a part of their individual person. It shouldn't be suppressed in any way, especially in school where we're supposed to learn about how to get along in society with people and things like that. So
if it's part of their religion and they want to saying the Pledge of Allegiance with God in it, if they don't want to say it, then it's up to them not to say it. They can sit down and not say it. But if someone wants to, then they should have the right to say it rather than have the right not to say it.
I think there should be a silent moment every day in school for people to pray for whoever they want to.
But if they don't want to pray, don't pray, but at least have a little moment.
I don't know, church and state, I don't know, freedom of speech. I think you should just say whatever you want to say.
Here in America, we got so much diversity, and you got so many different religions, and people might get offended if you're talking about one over the other and not teaching at all.
If that's something they feel they would like to do every day, then yeah, but I don't think it should be asked upon others to do also.
It can be a challenge to practice our Christian faith in a society that doesn't always respect our values and beliefs.
Our religious freedom is guaranteed by the Constitution.
But what does that actually mean? Do we have the freedom to practice our religion?
Has the way we understand this freedom changed over the years?
Are students allowed to express their religious views in public schools?
And how can Christian teenagers who attend public schools live their faith to the fullest in their school setting?
That's what we'll be talking about today. Hi everyone, I'm Jack.
And I'm Cora.
And this is Real Faith TV. Many of the teens we spoke to on the street didn't think it was a problem for others to pray in school, have religion-based clubs, or express their faith as long as they were not imposing their views and beliefs on others.
We'll find out how the teens here in the studio feel about religious expression in public schools.
But first, let's meet our spotlight guest, Amanda, and find out if she thinks prayer is allowed in public schools.
I don't believe students should be allowed to pray in the classroom during school hours because it might take away from the learning process. And you come to school basically to learn, and I don't think praying should come into play during school hours at a public school. Although I believe during times of free periods, such as lunch, recess, or a study hall, that students should be able to pray quietly to themselves or with a group, but keeping it quiet. Our public high school, we have Fellowship of the Christian Athletes that meet after school on Fridays. About 20 Christian athletes participate in the group after school, some more, some less, it depends on the week. The purpose of Fellowship of Christian Athletes is to give students a chance to come together after school to discuss their opinions on their faith, or to bring up questions and get support from other teens, and also have a chance to pray together. No one has ever raised a problem with our prayer group meeting. As far as I'm concerned, or as far as I know, everyone thinks it's a fantastic idea, and it's a really amazing time.
Yeah, I believe in the separation of church and state, so I agree with what she was saying about not having prayer during hours when you're supposed to be learning, but I also think that since we have free will and freedom of speech, people should be allowed to pray during their free periods, so I pretty much get what she was saying.
If you talk to public school students who are Christians, Many of them have the impression that they have to be discreet about their religion while they're at school.
Or that they can't practice their religion in any obvious way.
They have been led to believe that talking about their faith to others at school is not permitted.
There's a lot of misunderstanding about exactly what religious expression is lawful in public schools.
Let's meet our guests and find out what they think. They are Marissa, Katie, Ross, Catherine, Zoe, and Maggie.
So what do you guys think? Do you think that you can, talk freely about your faith with other students in school?
Well, I think that, I tend to hang out with people that are less Christian. I don't know whether I'm drawn to it or God's putting me there to, kind of be like a missionary to the people or whatnot. But what happens is when we start getting in a talk about that, we often butt heads. And I think they get really angry because I start telling them stuff. And you can almost see them recognize it as truth, but then they want to reject it right away because it doesn't go with what they think is truth, and they don't want to accept it as truth. So they kind of get really angry.
I think when you talk to other students, it depends on where they're coming from. Some kids are really accepting about it. Some are like, okay, whatever, I'm just listening to you because you're my friend. And some kids are just like, okay, just shut up. So there's all different degrees.
I think in my school, I hang out with a lot of Catholic people. Most of my friends are the same people who I go to church and see them on Sundays, and we go have donuts at Dunkin' Donuts afterwards. But we'll talk about it, and if we have a midterm and we're all in the same class or a big test or something, we'll all say a little prayer or something to help us with the test. But it's not really a big deal. If other kids see us do it, some of them might join in, some of them just continue on their own conversations, and nobody stops and points us out and makes a big deal out of it.
Yeah. I know that most of my friends, while they're not necessarily Catholic or even Christian, as long as they're accepting of my religion, we're interested in each other's and we talk about our religions with each other. And I think that you can learn something from a lot of different religions and what they teach. So I think that you can talk about it with people as long as they're willing to accept you and you're willing to accept them.
So what about prayer? Do you guys think students should be allowed to pray in school?
I think that they should be allowed to pray in school. I've never been to public school, but I have a lot of friends that do, and I really like what a couple of the people said on the Man in the Street interviews, how they think there should be like a moment of silence or something at the beginning of the day, and that way, people can pray if they want to, or they can just think about the upcoming day, and that's kind of helpful too. Like I know in my Catholic school, we do pray every morning, so it's that could be something that people in public school do, and I think that would just really help out, like start everyone off with a calm moment at the beginning of the day.
There's actually a bumper sticker that says there'll always be prayer in school as long as there's tests.
It's true. That's when I probably do most of my praying in school when I have a test. Exactly. But I think that there should be prayer in school because some people would argue it, but it's just like talking politics in school. You're going to have half of the people be Republicans and half the kids are going to be Democrats, and they'll argue on that. But that's allowed, but you can't argue on religions. I don't understand that, and
they would say.
And it's not even arguing. It's just kind of like discussing. Like I actually talked to a Protestant minister. Like he was in my music theory class, so we talk like religion in music theory. It was great.
They always say the two polite topics. The two impolite topics are politics and religion, and I think when you talk about religion in schools, those two things clash. So it's like very, very improper to talk about, and so.
Well,
there's prayer in school
I think
sometimes.
you should be able to pray in school as long as you're praying to yourself, and who would know if you're praying?
It's not like you say, okay, I'm praying.
Yeah. Exactly. I know if you're just sitting doing some kind of book work and you can just pause for a moment and say a little prayer and nobody would know. It's my little secret.
What about religious groups or clubs in public schools? Do you have any in your schools?
We asked the teens on the street.
Let's check out what they had to say.
Is there any kind of prayer group in your school?
I think there is. There might be like a Bible club or something like that. I don't really know though. I'm not sure.
Not that I know of, but if there was, I wouldn't know about it.
No, there's none in our school, no.
We do have certain clubs, activities that talk about the Bible, and they talk about other religions, but I don't think they actually act on prayer, something like that.
We have clubs also, but they're not exactly very efficient. Like not everyone, not everyone really goes.
Not really. We have one class, it's called Windows to the World, which is about all different cultures, and it goes into all different religious like backgrounds within the culture, but that's it. There's no like prayer class or anything like that.
Not that I know of.
To be honest with you, I don't know the answer to that question.
I go to Montclair State University, and they do have like different types of clubs like that, like a Muslim club, and like Christian groups and stuff like that.
At my school, we have the Newman Center, which is it's a church on campus, and we have like kids who are involved in the Newman Center like group and partake and stuff. And so we do have stuff like during like Lent week and everything, like leading up to Easter, Holy Week. There you go. They have certain activities on campus and stuff. But it's also for like other kids of different like religions. Like there's a Sabbath, Hillel or something, some Jewish group, and so there's different religious organizations. So.
Yes, we have a club called Northern Lights. It just started a couple years ago. It was kind of controversial about whether or not they could start it, and eventually they got the approval. So it's a Christian club that everyone's allowed to go to. It's open to anybody. We meet Mondays after school, and it's really good. We get to pray together, and they finally allowed us to do it, so it was good.
Most of the teens said that either there weren't any religious groups or clubs in their schools, or if there were, they didn't know about them.
It's interesting, though, that the teens who went to college found that they had campus ministries and prayer groups to help people of many different faiths.
Are there any religious clubs or groups in your guys' school?
We used to have this Bible study like when I was a freshman, but then it like kind of went out of existence. Now we're trying to get it back into existence, but I don't know, it's just not working out.
Well, I go to Catholic school, so of course there's religious groups and everything, but I do a CYO, Christian Youth Organization, and that's fun.
And I know in my school there's an organization called Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and you know, it's nice, a bunch of the athletes in our school, because sports is huge in my school, and a lot of those kids in my school are, you know, Christians, so most of them participate in the organization, and you know, it's good to see most of the entire student body is religious and they're not afraid to show it or pray in school.
We have the same thing, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and a lot of athletes do go, but there's more non-athletes that go as well, and maybe like singers go and they consider it, you know, oh, well, they're in a group, that's okay too. Yeah. It counts, yeah. And
exercising their voice.
It's really nice because they pray, and a lot of people go to it. It's surprising.
I don't think there's as many religious groups in the public school near me, and I think that's because a lot of times the faculty is actually intimidated because each group has to have an advisor to go with it, and if they don't have a faculty member who's willing to, you know, be in charge and watch over the club, then they're not allowed to start it. So that creates a problem for them because they can't find anyone to be in charge of their group, so they can't meet. So I think that's something, it's not even just the students, but the administration and the school board and the faculty that might have, you know, a problem with talking about religion or having something to do with faith.
They're all afraid to get sued.
What I don't understand about it that is there's loopholes. Like kids can pray before school. I know they were doing that for memoranda of 9/11, whatever the word is, and you know, before school, and students could lead it, but it was still a gathering of students on school grounds. So.
Do you think that it's permitted to use an example from the Bible in an essay or an image from Catholic tradition in an art project?
Students may use religious sources and indicate their religious convictions in completing school projects, provided they fulfill all the academic requirements of the assignment in the process.
Students have freedom of speech. Teachers and administrators may not justifiably stop a student from discussing their religious beliefs in school.
Or from distributing materials of a religious nature to other students, as long as it does not disrupt school order and discipline.
Did you know that students may even pray as a group, providing that the prayer is student-initiated, student-led, and doesn't take place during instructional time?
Let's find out about the fellowship Amanda belongs to at her public school.
I definitely benefit from our prayer group in so many ways. I can't even imagine like what I would be like without them, because it's such an amazing time, and it's such a good way for you to build your relationship with God. It makes you such a stronger person, and you also build a connection with so many new people that you meet, or people that you thought you knew you get to know even better, and you make such a strong friendship with people that share the same beliefs with you. So it not only builds your relationship with God, but also people in your daily lives. There are so many struggles that you can go through daily, not only like things with grades or a boyfriend or girlfriend, friends, or family problems, but by going to prayer group and by building your relationships with your friends, it gives you a place where you can talk to people and like you can confide in them, and they give you such amazing advice, and they'll pray for you, and they pray for whatever you need. And it's unlike most of your friends at school or people that you usually hang out with, because these people know a lot about you and they share the same beliefs as you, so they really can give you good feedback, and it's just an amazing time to get away from what you're used to. Like, you're isolating yourself for just 1 hour and like giving yourself to like God, just taking 1 hour away from what you're usually doing, homework or going shopping, and just like devoting it to God and to worship Him with some of your best friends.
It sounds like Amanda's fellowship group has had a positive effect on the teens involved, you know, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
And no one seems to complain about their gathering.
What are some positive examples you guys can think of that come out of allowing religious expression in schools?
Well, there was this one time, one of my friends had committed suicide, and I was talking to my other friend about, the different aspects of how faith, relates to that. And I brought it in my youth group, and religion really helped her through that tough time. And it was all because I could talk to her about it and pray with her, because he's such a strong crutch to use. In school, it's just definitely needed.
It's good that you're able to use faith to get through that.
Yeah.
And school can be so hectic, and prayer can bring you a sense of calm. And who wouldn't want that in school, to just be in the right mindset?
Yeah, help you learn, once you're calm and ready for the day.
And you can get to know people better through prayer and like praying with them in school, even like at a group, and you get to know them better through their inner selves, like when they're praying to God.
Yeah, I know that when I've gone on retreats, you come back feeling like you've known the people that you went with forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a big part of that is, you spend so much time doing something as deep and spiritual as prayer, and when you open up your heart to God, maybe you open up your heart to letting other people in, and I think that it can really be a good way to bond with other people.
Well, the more you pray, the closer you get to God. I'll be walking down the hallway and I'll see someone who's upset, and I'm like, God, help that person. Or I'll be talking to someone and they'll seem kind of confused about something, like, God, help them with their problem. It's just like, as you pray to God for Him to help other people or for what you need, you actually get closer to Him in that aspect, So it's just like walking down the hallway.
School is just another chance to bring power into the phrase, make every word a prayer.
Yes.
And, school's such a hard time. Who want to make it easier with, having God there, saying a little prayer in school.
And your high school years are just such a crucial time, because it's when you're really shaping who you're going to grow up to be. And high school can be so misleading. It can, there are people saying, do this and do that, even if you don't know what's right. And these things are going to create the foundation for the rest of your life, even if you do think that because you're young, you don't have to worry about it. So prayer can really help you get through that time without going so far off the path.
And if you allow kids to have religious expression in school, it gives them a sense of belonging and well-being and everything, because the school appreciates who they are, because faith is a big part of who you are.
Definitely.
So much of the confusion about religious expression in public schools comes from a misunderstanding of what the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States is all about.
Most people think that a strict separation of church and state be maintained, in which all kinds of religious expression is prohibited in the public arena.
But the First Amendment simply states that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof.
This is known as the Establishment Clause.
This amendment does not banish the practice of religion from public places.
Rather, it limits the federal government from favoring any one religion over another and from interfering in a person's practice of their faith.
The misinterpretation has become so widespread that some people are trying to take the phrase "one nation under God" out of the Pledge of Allegiance and In God We Trust off of paper money.
Let's see what Amanda had to say about these controversial applications of the First Amendment.
In a lot of cases, there has been problems with people wanting to take God out of everything now, such as like the Pledge of Allegiance, because we say that every day in school, and every religion says it, and we've been saying it since ever, like as long as I can remember. And I don't think we should be taking it to that extent. Like, it is a public school, and I don't think people should be dropping to their knees and praying in the middle of class, but there are certain extents, such as like the Pledge of Allegiance, that I think God should remain in.
We've been reciting the Pledge of Allegiance in school since my dad was a kid.
I know. I can't understand why they need to take God out of it.
What do you think about this?
I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, more people want the Pledge of Allegiance to have, God in it and paper money to have God in it than, people don't. So, I mean, if worse comes to worse, I think if all else fails, put it to a vote, and I think, it'll make it passed and stayed in, that way. But I think that, it's been that way for so long. Why change it now just because a couple of people, disagree with it?
Yeah.
There's bigger issues to deal with.
I think there's a silent majority, and this tiny, tiny little minority that's like feels injustice about it is like screaming at the top of their lungs, and everyone's just like, "Oh, what's that squeak over there? It's kind of annoying. Let's shut it up." That's kind of why people are paying so much attention to it, is because there's an annoying little squeak coming from the corner, and everyone else is like, "What?"
There's not a lot of people in my school who complain about it.
Yeah, nobody really cares.
I think that the government just feels like it's like walking on eggshells, because people are so quick to twist their rights into basically getting what they want, or suing, or
exactly.
Doing
jurisprudence.
It's such a litigious society. I mean, like, God has been a part of this country since it was created. People came to this country for religious freedom, and that's why it was added to the Constitution. And I think what we're doing now is actually completely against what the founders of the Constitution were thinking when they created it. It's like everybody's free to practice religion, and now we're to the point where we're afraid to practice religion in public places because of that amendment.
And there's so many buildings that have "In God We Trust," and they'd have to take like everything out. It's like, okay, we have to demolish this building because it says God in it. Oops.
I think school is the only setting that the pledge is often said. I don't think they say it at workplaces frequently, so it must be parents and students.
I do have to say it's good. It's good to hear "God Bless America" played during the 7th inning stretch at Yankee Stadium for the home games. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of happy with that. And it's good to see, all 55,000, screaming fans, all take their hats off and stand up. And even the players, they don't go into the dugout, they stay and stand and, take their hats off and, join in and sing. And I think that's good.
So do you guys have any suggestions for public school teens who are watching who would like to express their faith during the school day?
Well, like wear T-shirts with crosses or messages on it, like WWJD, bracelets, necklaces, crosses, whatever,
You can organize like your own prayer group maybe and get people to come and share your faith with them.
I think just praying, and someone asks you what you're doing, just say, "I'm praying." And maybe they'll ask questions and everything.
You want to join in,
Yeah.
I know that one way that I like to express my faith is just talking with other people and explaining my beliefs. So some of them might be a little cynical at first, but they ask questions, and if you explain them patiently and you just try to keep things on a friendly level, then they're more likely to understand and accept you and other people like you.
And it's important too, if you're nervous or a shyer person, not just to keep huddled up, but you can say a silent prayer. I mean, you don't have to say or do anything. You just kind of sit there and be quiet with yourself for a minute, and nobody has to know you're saying a prayer. I mean, if you don't want them to, it's between you and God if you really want it to.
Yeah. And like when everything comes down to it, they'll know we're Christians by our love. So just love everybody.
Well, Christians are all about action.
Like Marissa said before, you could form a club, but instead of like a prayer club, you could form a service club and have it, instead of being about praying, about going out and taking action in your community. So like Christians are known for their actions, like you all said.
Yeah, or you could, just introduce some of your friends to contemporary Christian music that you might enjoy, because music is something that everyone can relate to.
That's true. I have an atheist friend, and I was going through one of his CD collections, and I was like, this is a Christian rock album, and he's like, oh, really? So Just shows you, even atheists can relate to this kind of music.
Wow, we thought of a lot of ways to express your religion in schools. Silent prayer, forming a club, T-shirts, even Christian music. I mean, these are all great ways to spread your faith and show people what you believe.
During the 1980s, Congress passed the Equal Access Act.
It ensures that student religious activities are afforded the same access to school facilities that other non-curriculum-oriented clubs and organizations are given.
This includes access to meeting space, as well as the ability to make announcements, post notices on bulletin boards,
report things in the school newspaper, and be included in the yearbook.
It doesn't matter whether the students are meeting for prayer and worship, study of the Bible, or a discussion of religious issues.
So know your rights. Don't be afraid to share your faith with others in school.
Do you have religious groups or clubs in your public school? We want to know.
Contact us through our website.
The address is www.realfaithtv.com.
Or you can call us at 609-406-7402.
And remember this, Christian teenagers, indeed teens of any religion, have considerable protection of their rights under the laws of the United States
to freely express their religion.
But in seeking to have your rights respected, heed the advice St. Paul wrote to Titus about guiding Christians in the practice of the faith.
Remind them to be under the control of authorities.
To be obedient, to be open to every good enterprise.
They are to be peaceable, considerate, exercising all graciousness towards everyone.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time on
Real Faith TV.
God bless.